Yo, what's up YouTube? Goody Grant back here with another one. And before we dive right into the showcase, I want to let you guys know that 4 days ago there was a patch 1.1.1 that issued a hotfix to bursting venoms that was meant to fix, well, a bug in the game, but incidentally resulted in a nerf to not only the aspect itself, but the entire poison build in general. So I spent the better of that 4 days just testing different combinations of variables in order to just try to get the build back to a state where it was not only viable, but most importantly enjoyable for everybody that wanted to play it. The goal has always been to not only make a build that has good performance, but is also fun for everybody to play no matter what stage of progression they're at. And I had just started to get to the point where I felt as if though my build was reaching that goal and even surpassing it. Then I wake up and, well, we're nerfed. So I had to go in and make a lot of optimizations, and I changed a few things, swapped a few aspects around, and I think changed maybe one or two stats. But apart from that, I didn't make any massive changes, and it's not going to be anything that's necessarily game breaking if you don't have. But again, that was the whole point. I've built my spec in a way that if you don't have an aspect, if you don't have enough skill points, if you don't have enough paragon points, if you just can't get the gear rolls that you need, it really doesn't matter because there are alternatives and the spec is very versatile. You can go down multiple different build paths with just the base foundation of, say, the paragon board or the skill tree. Despite the fact that they made a game-changing hotfix mid-season being absurd and foolish, I honestly gotta say that I'm not too mad that it happened, because if it hadn't, I wouldn't have realized that there were quite a few refinements that I needed to make to my Paragon board, and also I wouldn't have realized that there were optimizations needed to be made to my gear. And so that leads us into what you're seeing on screen today. This is the upgraded, updated, refined version of my build post Bursting Venom's fix slash nerf. There's a few things right off bat that I'm sure you guys can probably see are different. For starters, well, we swapped from inner sight to combo points, and that's because inner sight's broken now too. It just doesn't charge. It doesn't activate, it doesn't charge, it just doesn't work in Nightmare Dungeons, so I don't use it anymore. I use combo points. It's pretty much biz now because, well, Inner Sight just doesn't work. So if they fix Inner Sight, I'll probably try to go back to it, as I want to stay as true to the Infinite Poison TB Rogue as I can, but I mean, come on, who knows when that's going to be and if they even know that it's an issue. Apart from the visible change of inner sight to combo points, you guys also might notice that I'm not having to run iron skin elixirs anymore. I've pretty much got my tankiness and sustainability to the point where I don't need to pop any elixirs in these nightmare dungeons to survive. I'm pretty much good no matter what nightmare dungeon I choose to run, unless it's some high density, bad affix, terrible mob dungeon. And there aren't very many of those. There are definitely a few, however, like I said, as long as I have good affixes, I don't think it even really matters that much. I mean, as you can see with the showcase I'm showing you guys on screen right now, I chose the most random tier 100 dungeon I had in my inventory at the time, and that just so happened to be a Shock Lance Ironhold. Well, I've never ran Ironhold before, I don't think, apart from maybe trying to get renown and maybe the aspect that could have been in it, but I've never on purpose ran Ironhold, so I have no idea what the layout of this dungeon is, nor did I know what the mobs were going to be going into it. But with that being said, you can see for yourself that the build performed well within this dungeon, despite there being Shadow Ghost, Shock Lance Affix, and Demons in here, which I'm not really geared to fight as a Poison Rogue. Usually when going into dungeons, because I know certain ones are harder for the Rogue, I'll on purpose try to go for something like Spiders, Bandits, Skeletons, or maybe even Snakes and Poison Flies if I have to, but I'll never really go for distant damage enemies, which would be archers, thorn beasts, ghosts, succubuses, and just other random like spitter mobs, which this dungeon had no shortage of, coincidentally. That being said, that's why I think it's the perfect dungeon for me to showcase to you guys, because if I can do this dungeon, then I should be able to do all the other dungeons as long as the affixes are good, and there might be a few of them that are outliers that have super high mob density because they're more geared towards gear farming, lower tiered dungeon runs, but at this point I feel as if though my build has gotten to that point where it's pretty much perfect for not only leveling, mid-game, late game, but especially those tier 100s and speedrunning content. And throughout, I've maintained this enjoyability and fun factor that is really crucial to a lot of people's gameplay, and something that's been stripped away with this recent patch because bursting venoms just doesn't proc the same or feel the same. However, with this build right here, I've got it just about to where it was, and I've got to say I'm having a lot of fun with it. Now that I've solidified my gear and put everything into what I would call its finished form, I'm having a lot of fun with the game. And I mean, running these tier 100s is pretty easy, I gotta say, but there is a little bit of a challenge there because I know if I mess up, I don't proc right, I don't apply my different status effects or things like that properly, then I'll die. And if I rush into a fight or get overly cocky, then I know I'm gonna die, so there's still a challenge there. And this build is very good for anything under tier 100s. It's a speedrunning build because it has so much movement speed, damage, and just survivability that it doesn't matter. You can just plow through anything that's set in front of you. And so that's why I made this showcase and why I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background before I release my build guide here in what I would assume would be a couple of hours. I know I only lightly touched on the changes that I made to my Paragon, for example, but I don't want you guys to worry. I didn't do any massive changes. Like I said, there's no complete reworks or anything like that that's going to happen. It's not going to cost you guys a lot of gold, and it's not going to take a lot of time to re-roll stats or get those aspects that you need because, well, you guys should already have them because I'm working off of the foundation of the build that I already had been working on. And like I said, since it's so versatile, you guys don't need to worry about whether or not you have all of those aspects, stats, or Paragon points, because I'm going to give you guys a lot of different options and variety to go ahead and fill the gaps and get those different damage or survivability increases that you need to put yourself at a point where you can sustain until you get all of what you need, being aspects, skill points, Paragon points, or whatever it may be. But we are getting to the end here, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. You guys will see that I'll go into the boss room here, and I'm going to do a quick swap here to inner sight just to go ahead and see. We're going to walk into the dungeon, and we're going to start doing damage against the boss. And if you guys just pay attention to that inner sight gauge, it just isn't moving. It's not procking, it's not charging, it's not doing anything. So I quickly swap back to combo points and finish him off. And then if you guys stay tuned here, I do show my stat sheet, but I don't want to give too much away as I am dropping that build guide like I said. So if you guys are interested in that, any other strategies, or just D4 content in general, don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to drop any questions or feedback you might have down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys, and peace out.